The London Route, Part 5. Before leaving Zimbabwe, Chenai had heard many sad stories of how some Zimbabweans living in London turned their backs on their friends and relatives who relocated to London, and how these friends and relatives coming from Zimbabwe had to find their own way in an unfamiliar city. But her story had been different. Since her arrival in London, Tendai had gladly shared her flat with her, and she was immensely grateful to her BFF. She and Tendai had defied the misconception that friends living together kills friendship, and they'd been amicable flatmates for a whole year. And their friendship was still intact. However, Chenai had now decided that it was time for her to fly out of the nest and rent a place of her own. For several days she wrestled with breaking the news to Tendai, and when she'd finally got the nerve, she broached the subject. Although Tendai was saddened that Chenai would soon be leaving, she was happy for Chenai at the same time, and she understood that it was important for Chenai to have her own space. True friends look out for each other, and you've been a true friend in need and a friend indeed, Chenai appreciated Tendai. You're my BFF, Tendai responded. Our friendship has spanned since kindergarten, and we've supported each other since then, and that will never change. Have you already found accommodation? Tendai went on to ask. I'll start searching soon, Chenai responded. Searching for suitable accommodation was a daunting task, and Chenai was both excited and worried. Super excited about moving into her own rental accommodation, and worried whether she would find the perfect accommodation that would fit her budget. Tendai had told her all the dangerous and dodgy London suburbs to exclude in her accommodation search. After spending much time Googling various rental websites, Chenai came across an advert that caught her attention. It read, "Absolutely beautiful one-bedroom flat available for lease, in a safe neighborhood. 3 minutes walk from the tube station and close to different services. For football lovers, a football stadium is a stone's throw from the flat." Chenai immediately booked an appointment to view the advertised flat. At exactly 9 o'clock, the following morning, she arrived at the apartment and knocked on the door. Moments after, a man opened the door and invited her to come in. He pointed to the stairs and asked her to sit down and wait for the landlord, who would be with her shortly. The man excused himself, and Chenai watched him as he scrubbed and cleaned the toilet and bathroom. She had no clue that he was her prospective landlord. The man walked out of the bathroom 5 minutes later and removed his rubber gloves, sanitized his hands, and sat beside her on the stairs. "My name is Mark," he introduced himself. "If you're lucky, I may become your landlord." Chenai had assumed that he was a cleaner and was surprised. Seeing her surprised look, Mark informed her that he cleaned the apartment by himself on a weekly basis rather than hire a cleaning company because it saved him money. Mark then gave Chenai a tour of the apartment from the 3rd floor down to the ground floor. The vacant one-bedroomed flat was on the 2nd floor, and he led her inside to view it. The flat was fully furnished, and it consisted of a kitchenette with a fridge, a stove, and a microwave, a lounge with a couch, a coffee table, and a television, and a bedroom with a bed, a dressing table, and a wardrobe. There was also a veranda that led to the small backyard. And the cherry on the cake was free Wi-Fi. "A few prospective tenants have come to view the flat, and I'm now going through a tenant screening and selection process," Mark told Chenai. "Should you be successful, you will hear from me in 2 days' time." Mark then asked Chenai to complete a rental tenancy application. It was to Chenai's delight when 2 days later Mark invited her back to his apartment and informed her that he'd decided to offer her the lease of his one-bedroom flat. "In my 10 years of being a landlord, I've had a few tenants who stressed me out, but my heart tells me that you will be a good tenant. You can count on that," Chenai assured Mark. Chenai and Mark conducted a flat inspection together to ensure that all the electrical appliances were working properly. Mark informed her the house rules, and as she signed the lease agreement, she assured him that she would adhere to all the terms and conditions. Before Chenai left, Mark handed her the keys to the apartment and to her flat, and as he handed them over, she was filled with an ecstatic feeling. As soon as she left the apartment, Chenai called Tendai to inform her of the good news. Tendai was happy for Chenai, and she promised to help her with moving the few boxes that she'd already packed. The next day Chenai and Tendai arrived at Chenai's new apartment, and upon entry they climbed up the stairs to the 2nd floor, and Chenai unlocked the door of her new flat. She and Tendai placed the boxes with Chenai's stuff in their respective rooms, and then they sat on the couch to eat pizza. Upon Chenai's return to the apartment from shopping, she fumbled inside her handbag in search of her keys. When she could not find the keys, she emptied the contents of her handbag and shook the handbag vigorously, but the keys did not fall out. She could not remember whether she had locked her keys in her flat by mistake or if the keys had accidentally fallen out of her handbag while she was shopping. Knowing that landlords usually kept spare keys in case of an emergency, she called Mark to ask him to bail her out, but the call went straight to a voicemail message that said that he and his family had traveled out of London for a weekend trip and would return on Monday morning. A moment later, a fellow tenant walked out of the apartment and asked Chenai if she was all right, and she explained that she was locked out of the apartment because she'd lost her keys. "So sorry this happened, but don't panic," the tenant said, and then asked her if she'd informed Mark. Chenai explained that Mark could not bail her out because he was out of town. "I think the best option you have is to request emergency accommodation at a homeless shelter until your problem is sorted out on Monday," the tenant suggested. Chenai agreed to the suggestion, and the tenant gave her directions to the homeless shelter, which was 5 minutes' walk from the apartment. Upon arrival at the homeless shelter, Chenai explained her predicament to the supervisor, who listened sympathetically. The supervisor informed Chenai that she was welcome to stay at the homeless shelter until she'd recovered her keys. The supervisor went on to explain that the homeless shelter residents all had different circumstances that had led them to seek accommodation, and that they were welcome to stay for as long as they needed to stay. She then informed Chenai of the mealtimes for breakfast, lunch, and supper. Chenai signed in, and then the supervisor showed her the room which she'd been allocated. At 8 o'clock that evening, Chenai joined other residents in the dining room for supper, after which she and some residents sat in the lounge and watched TV. The next morning, Chenai was shown to a room that was full of brand new clothing which was regularly donated to the homeless shelter by various clothing stores, and she selected a change of clothes. Chenai left the homeless shelter on Monday after having lunch. She thanked the supervisor for the hospitality that she had received, and after signing out she left to meet Mark, who was on his way to the apartment to bail her out. Mark unlocked the apartment as well as Chenai's flat with his spare keys. To Chenai's relief, she found her keys on the kitchen counter. Had she not found the keys, she would have had to pay for replacement keys. She vowed never to find herself in this predicament again. End of part 5.